we're hoping that in the next half an hour, we're going to get you to explore philosophical realms. What is the edge of humanity with the AI conversation? Let's get into it. Let's get straight into it. And I'm actually going to come first, as we've already, to Deepak. All right. So Deepak, in running his company, I just want to tell your audiences that you've actually said in one of your talks that you, instead of approaching AI as, let's just plug it in when it comes to how we're going to build gaming around it, you went about thinking of it as, let's make a task force. Let's explore the different ways in which AI can be used. And it's only, I believe, after a lot of curiosity, a lot of exploration, that you've started plugging AI in different ways. Before we go ahead, guys, today's conversation is about Gen AI. So predictive AI has existed for years and years. Gaming has been using it for a very long time. It's not new. But Gen AI, this night cheese that's been on the block, all of us using ChatGPT on our phones, that's really what we're here to discuss today. So just tell us first, how did you go about thinking about it?
Yeah, so I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So at Nazara, I mean, essentially I'm going to talk about how we have approached it at Nazara. Nazara, as you know, is we have diversified group of studios across the globe. And we wanted to see how we can become AI first in terms how we are approaching both the two critical pillars. One is how do we enhance player experiences, and on the other hand, how do we drive operational efficiencies. So the first step we took, and this was more than almost a year back, where we started setting up a task force. The intent was that how do we really start creating certain use cases which are tied to the KPIs and build the
KPI kya hai? You have to break everything down for us.
Yeah, how do you define a measurable indicator in terms of what impact you are creating? So we looked at a few critical pillars in terms of how do we want to go about the AI first approach. One was to create a partnership with tech giants, with AI startups, to kind of understand how we can very rapidly do some experimentation. Second was to also identify the right use cases, like I said, which are tied to the priorities for different companies, and build a list of, let's say, top 5 use cases. Next was to kind of start small, but think big, while we had a larger vision, but we wanted to start smaller experimentation so that we see some success, and that becomes a playbook which can be replicated across. And last but not the least is the cultural change, where how do you bring together diverse teams working across geographies together in terms of thinking AI first. So this is a challenging journey, but I think in the last 6-9 months, things have rapidly changed, because this revolution is essentially resetting the standards every 3 months. Yeah. That's how rapidly it's evolving. So what we have seen now, where we have come to now is, across, if I talk about player experiences, so right from the, your old school ML models, which are being leveraged, but now we are building Gen AI on top of it to see how we can drive player experiences. This could be through creating buddies on the games, creating coaches, creating NPCs, so on and so forth. And on the production efficiency side, we are looking at, now it is very well integrated across most of the streams. So it's become a co-pilot in that sense, in terms of whether it's art and design team, our UA teams, QA teams, playtesting teams, so on and so forth. So that's where we have reached, but I think we are still scratching the surface still, because I think the game is to kind of build a customization further and further on, where you can build SLMs, like smaller language models, which are customized to the studio, to the style.
Personalized,
yeah,
you've talked about
this. So that's where we are.
The data set that, for example, ChatGPT pulls from when it's giving you answers, in this case, it would just be your information, right?
That's right. So we want to create more something which is strictly looking at contextualizing the kind of output which we are getting. So essentially it means that training more and more on the data sets which you already have, whether it's art and design, whether it's QA. So that's where we are progressing, and we are looking now extensively building something customized for in-house use cases. So that's where we are.
You also earlier said, you used a very interesting phrase. You said, we're trying to train people to think AI first. And I'm going to ask you in a little while to break down what you mean when you say that in a second. But we want to come over to you, Robbie, now and ask you questions. To anyone who plays video games or is a gamer out there, Indus. has been the sexiest thing in the last few years. The fact that you've built this beautiful platform that celebrates India, but isn't, you know what I mean? It's not right front and center. It does it in nuanced ways. And just the way in which you thought about building it after first having, a different mass guns. Now you have this. But tell us, I want to ask you, everyone's favorite question is, when is India going to get a huge game that everyone talks about globally? So when they say this, they usually mean like a Baldur's Gate that came out, World of Warcraft, those kind of very, very deep narrative layered games that just, have entire worlds. How do you see AI fitting in? I'm assuming you are already using AI in all kinds of very cool ways. Tell us that, and also tell us, how do you see AI fitting in?
So thank you for those kind words. Indus, the way that we imagined it was to kind of be the Wakanda of India, very inspired by what the movie Black Panther did for Afrofuturism, and we wanted to do that with Indo-futurism. We wanted to kind of say that, hey, what if the Indus Valley civilization didn't really die? What if it was untouched by civilization, it was so advanced that it flew off, and we're now discovering it in the year 2500. At least that's the lore that our story writer wrote inside of it. After, Indus is not the first story that we wrote. We wrote 6 different stories. So the challenge from a young studio or a small studio perspective, we were 30 people when we started. We're about 180 now as we kind of grew the game. To kind of fill in those stories, tell those stories about mythology, folklore, stories from Indian bravery, dedication. All of these pieces was something that we wanted to imagine. I think AI has been our favorite co-developer in the way that we kind of think about these stories. It's something that augments our existing creativity, but also kind of enhances and kind of nuances all those layers of storytelling. And then kind of, Indian mythology is famous for having great stories, but not having a face to it. So when you think about it, our initial artist kind of shaped what you kind of see as this art aesthetic of Indus, which is slightly different. A lot of people kind of, have called us the Wakanda of India. And we thought that was a very good compliment, very easy to kind of explain what we were doing. And you only can find that many artists. So the first few attempts with AI of generating AI, so to say, of generating art, were not consistent. So whenever we would kind of generate something like that, it would kind of not be, the first 2 images would be encouraging, but the moment you try to do a little bit more, it was completely off. The way that we solved for it was to kind of stick to the process and say that, hey, AI is going to be our co-developer, it's going to enhance and become much better at doing all of these. We trained AI to kind of on our artists. Our artists sat down and kind of fed it all the concept art that went into the creation of Indus for the first 3 years. From there, we used Stable Diffusion as our base. From there, we were now able to generate, art that is, so to say, in lane with the rest of our art.
Can I ask you a follow-up question? So
sure.
There's a much discussed MIT study that happened a few days ago where, and I'll just share.
People become dumber.
Yeah. I think, so MIT itself was angry with people saying that. So there was a study that came out and all the headlines said that, wow, ChatGPT makes you dumber. Then MIT came out with a clarification and said, bhai, ye dumber shab mat use karo. We're not saying that at all. But what the study does show is a few different things. One of which is that if all 5 of us put in prompts and ask it to build an essay, the problem is that essay will be quite generic.
Correct.
It might be a brilliant essay, but it will be generic. I want to ask you how, I know you were giving, your artists were giving prompts, but was there a fear that, because creativity and what creativity is in itself predefined when
Correct.
you're using a machine like this? So
Correct.
what were your thoughts around that?
So I think from an art aesthetic perspective, I think there's an area of prompting that you kind of refine over a period of time. You kind of explain to it like a child to kind of explain, and it kind of grows up after that. It kind of reads, learns, understands. It's now understanding what you're trying to do. I think if you give it dumb prompts, you'll actually get back dumb answers as well. I think what happened over that period of time was good refinement from a prompt perspective, but also great learning material that you trained your AI on. I think that is really the one area that we kind of felt changed the way that we look at AI. Because now it was able to kind of, we were able to master it and say that, hey, it can now generate what we wanted it to do. So the way that we think about game development, we think about AI as kind of, our strategic initiative for a small team that's producing something that's very, very large. The games of our size or Indus size, and the ones that you mentioned all around the world, we think that AI is a great leveler from that perspective, because teams that have produced it have either had a culture of producing games for 25 years or have had teams of 500 people. Now you're competing against both of these. I think AI is kind of your best bet from kind of competing on these two vectors. Whether it's pre-production with our generative AI, concept art, level design, procedural level design, creating those dynamic worlds that exist in other games that people have created over years with hundreds of people is now possible with a small team.
Okay. You're very, very optimistic and it's lovely to see, but I want to check in with another founder now. I want to go over to you. You run Felicity. And Anurag, I just want to ask you, your organization is a lot younger. And there's a lot that's said about AI being this great leveler, basically AI coming in and doing what a lot of big studios were earlier doing. I need to understand from you, do you find that that's true? Because I'm sure operating AI, operating different studios, for example, different programs, there are costs associated. So walk us through if it is actually as enticing as it sounds. Has it really been that smooth a journey for your organization? Walk us through how Felicity thinks about it.
Sure. So, as with everything, there's a nuance, right? And in game development, if you look at the type of games that exist, AAA title, which is something that Robbie was attempting, versus, let's say, a mid-core versus a casual. Every game will have very different needs in terms of, their art style, game design, and also the way you kind of, distribute it. So at least at Felicity, we have been focusing on casual games, and I can speak on behalf of, at least the studios that we work with closely. What I'm noticing is that with AI, it's a lot easier for smaller studios to put out prototypes, right? Test faster. Because in casual gaming, it's all about what not to do rather than what to do, right? Because, Angry Birds was found after like the 50-second attempt by Rovio, right? So in casual gaming, today I feel it's a bit like making reels. You never know what will land. Yeah. And thus, you need to take multiple shots at the goal. So AI in that sense has made it very, very easy to take those many shots. But the question here stems that if it's that easy, then where does the moat lie, right? And
where does the moat lie?
Yeah, moat.
M-O-A-T.
Yeah, if all of us can build, hyper casual or hybrid casual or casual games, then what's differentiating us? And I think that's where the nuance around how do you get to the user, your game design. Ultimately, a game is a piece of an interactive. It's an interactive media wherein you think about it even when you're not playing. That's the reason why you come back to it, right? And the nuance there doesn't lie in art. It lies in the design of the experience, right? The level difficulty. And I think slowly and steadily, at least at Felicity, what we are noticing is that AI is great from content production perspective, but for a company which is very, very focused on distribution, right? We look at AI as we are looking up to traditional AI, which is the ML models, etc., of customizing user journeys. How do we, look at the nuance of level difficulty, ad pressure, in-app purchase pricing by user, so that we can give them an awesome experience and set apart, let's say, another game which looks exactly the same from ours.
So are you saying, what I really want to get right now, I want to summarize for everyone, is are you saying that AI and generative AI has skills, certain skill sets, but it hasn't conquered certain aspects of the game? And then my question to you is it just a question of how soon? In a few years will it be able to do, or maybe a few months?
Yeah, so, recently Mark Pincus, who was the founder of Zynga, just floated a company to make games with AI, end-to-end, right? So what he did 15 years back, I'm sure he'll redefine the industry in 5 years from now. So effective, but making games will definitely get easier, but making money from them, making them commercial grade will require a whole lot on the back end to work, and that's where, as I said, game design, your monetization strategy, how you get to the user in the most cost-effective manner with world-class user acquisition. Those are the things that will be the key pillars which will differentiate a good studio or a company from great.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to take your points. You talked a lot about making money, and I want to go over to Dream now to understand a little bit about what it takes to run something that is doing so beautifully when it comes to just having, millions of people tuned in, catching, following every movement. And I just want to ask you, so our audience may or may not know this, Dream11 has collaborated with Columbia and you've built this entire initiative where you have researchers studying how AI can impact sports and studying how AI can impact games. This is already a huge school, and I just want to understand, what is cutting edge right now? What are the different studies that are happening? What are students studying, researching to understand more? What are the questions basically in this area?
First of all, thanks for having me here. I think it has been a very enlightening experience to hear all these very talented founders. Right. I'll take 2 minutes just to introduce that why do we think and what was the reason that we went with Columbia University partnership. So, I mean, again, it's a personal view, but what I propose is that we had a data revolution, right? 10 years back with Google came and data became democratized. With this new arm of AI, which is generative AI, right? There was AI already present, predictive, detective, prescriptive, generative. So generative has been one arm of the AI that has come, which has made intelligence democratized. So what Anurag was saying, that the basic plus level of intelligence is now in hands of everybody. What we are now going to do is that we are going to create using super plus intelligence on top of that platform and give qualitative experience to our users, to anybody who's using and probably experiencing the world in that sense. It's not going to only affect gamers or sports, it's going to affect the transformational technology. So it's going to affect each and everyone, including you, right, in your media. And
already have AI anchors, exactly. It's happened, yeah.
Correct. So now that I have set up the ground, right, you can understand that the world has shrunk, right? And to work on this transformational technology, you cannot depend upon localized talent, right? And you have to work as a global talent pool, right, in order to understand what is happening, getting information at the first hand, and probably applying it on the data that you are already having. Right, so that was one of the fundamental reasons that we went with an research collaboration where cutting-edge understanding of this technology is happening. We are, of course, as you answered by yourself, we are sitting on millions of users and we are
a lot of data.
Terabytes of data per day kind of thing. And then there are knowns and there are unknown revelations coming out of these data. I'm pretty sure these people are also working, and there are knowns and unknowns in that. The question is that known you can work on with your intelligence, but what about the unknowns? And for that, you have to spend on a lot of research without an objective defined that what would come out of it. But you know that there is something gold hidden in it, right? And that is one of the aspects that we are using these researchers on. The second aspect that what we are saying, and I think backstage we were discussing, and I was saying that there was a question that when is that singularity moment?
I think we should, okay, does everyone, do we know what the word singularity means? Can put your hand up if you do. I just want to see if, there's one person. All right, I would have. So is it fair for me to define singularity as essentially the point in which it's believed that AI will become more intelligent than human beings? Do we agree with that definition? So the thing we were discussing is when do we think that moment is going to happen? You know, in all the scary movies where they say that, machines are going to become more intelligent than human beings, essentially this is that moment when machines take control. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. That's where the jury's out right now. But that's what the word singularity means. We asked all of you when you think it's coming. One person on this panel said 6 months. So there's a lot of, I don't know if it's optimism or realism on this panel. But to go back to what you were saying.
Yeah. No, sir, my view is that whatever, it goes to every individual's mindset, right? But whatever they are thinking, that this would happen in this X amount of time, please have it, right? Because we have already gone past that inflection point where humans were creating AI. Now we have to understand that AI is creating AI and it's exponential, right? So, and in maths, you must have heard about the convergent series, right? This is going to be that way. That whenever you're thinking that, oh, this is 1 year away, please understand that will come in 6 months' time. And that's why last and very strong reasons to invest with a partnership like Columbia University was that probably, all of my panelists would also agree that maybe the AI is not there at a production scale level to be used at this point of time. But in 1 year's time, it would evolve to that stage, and unless you are ready, probably you have already missed the bus, right? So that was the another third fundamental reasons that we went with the partnership.
So I want to ask, the title of this panel is actually not how AI is affecting gaming, it's how gaming is affecting AI. And I do want to ask, I want to come to you, Deepak, to ask you, is gaming affecting AI, and how is it doing so? How is it pushing the boundaries of what AI is?
So I think fundamentally gaming is the most immersive medium of entertainment, and the interactions, the engagement which you see in gaming, it is unmatched across sectors. So from that standpoint, gaming becomes a very hotbed of how AI is going to evolve as we go forward. So gaming is definitely a very important use case or an important space in which AI will find its most extraordinary use cases. So coming back, I'm saying in terms of how gaming, because for example, if you look at any part of gaming as a business, like for example, acquisition. So today we have the old school ML defining a predictive LTV for a new player, and that optimizes your UA campaigns. Now all the UA creatives, for example, many of our studios are today leveraging AI extensively for UA creatives, whether it is a playable or a video. Second part is the moment you acquire the user, the install happens, and then there is the onboarding journey. On the onboarding journey, you are able to do a customization, a personalization in terms of gameplay, offers, IAP, so on and so forth, using ML. But then you also today have a buddy who kind of becomes like kind of a companion for the player, and that is happening through Gen AI. So you would see the combination of both these intelligences kind of completely revolutionizing or resetting how game dev is going to be seen in times forward. So I think this is a game changer, like everybody said that this is a leveler or a game changer, and it is going to redefine how gaming is going to happen, and gaming use cases would be at the forefront of many of the AI implementation.
I want to ask you, one of the criticisms that comes forward sometimes from experts that we'll talk to around the gaming industry, when we ask them that question, Robbie, we were talking about earlier of India's big game, is they say that despite all the excitement, there is a lack of risk appetite when it comes to building storied games. So not EA, not sports, but games with layers and stories. I just want to ask you, let's come to you, Robbie, with that question. Do you agree? Do you think that's, I feel like you're the ever optimist. You're going to say it's changing, but tell us how you think about it.
I think it's a matter of time.
Okay.
Like I think, today for AI to kind of lay out all the narrative around a game, to kind of build that interactive, dynamic world, it's still not there. It's still, otherwise you would probably see it in the market. But I know for sure that it's...
Sorry to stop you. Is that the correct analysis? That peso ki kami ki wajah se we haven't got such a,
True. Like, I would say that a good, my company makes Pac-Man worldwide. So when I met the Pac-Man founder, the guy who made Pac-Man, I asked him, what's the next game that you made? And he said, Robbie, you don't know anything about making games. And I said, explain. He said that you don't need to make many games. You just need to make one great game. And so when you think about making a great game, a lot of great founders around the world who made games have made just one great game. And that's mostly been the story of their life. You don't know of any other game that, let's say, the Angry Birds guy made or the Subway Surfers guy made. That's the one game that's enough. To make that storied game has been years of work. What you might not see inside of it is it's still tip of the iceberg. What you might see is still the game, but all the learning, all the teams, we say that it takes 10 years to make a great game because to make a hit, it's like engineering a perfect storm. You need to get the art right, the story right, the programming right, the servers right, the community right, the marketing right. So creating all these layers has been hard, and it's been, I would say, 10 years. But can AI speed that up? Can it kind of fill in those gaps in human intelligence at least, or skill from a network programmer or a graphics engineer to kind of fill in those gaps inside of it? We think it's there.
And you also are confident that whatever AI puts out will not be generic.
So in some things you need it generic because, those are just standard layers. But from a lore perspective, it still needs to be somebody who's mastering it, somebody who's prompting it, somebody who's tuning it. And we feel like that's what humans will master.
Okay, I want to ask you, I think we have time for a closing question, and this is a question that I'm going to come around and ask all of you about. So it's good you hear it once and then think about the answer because it's a tricky one. Anurag, I'll start with you. I want to ask you, when it comes to AI and when it comes to thinking about the future of what Felicity is doing, and this question will change for Dream 11, it'll change for each of you. What are the questions that are keeping you up at night? Are there pieces you haven't solved that you want to sort of solve?
Right. I believe the main thing is how contextually deep can AI get in understanding humans better than humans themselves, right? That's the biggest risk that exists, and if that's the biggest risk that exists to most of the content in interactive media companies, right? If one company is able to master this all, because ultimately, as I said, a game is something that keeps you thinking about it when you're not playing it. That's the true test of a good game, right? And if I can understand, let's say, what Rob wants to play or Deepak wants to play, this is the kind of level difficulty that they should have. This is the premise at which I should have left them. If AI starts understanding that better than humans itself, effectively, then I think a lot of us are out of business. So, investing in research or at least spending a lot of time toying with AI to get to those outcomes, so that at least you are amongst the pack eventually who will master this. Is something that we think of. Across the nuanced part of gaming, which is the design, the acquisition, and the monetization.
Okay, I want to ask Abhishek, because we've talked about the data points that your company clearly has, but I want to understand from you. Obviously, yes, the same question. What are the questions that are keeping you awake at night? But also tell us, what has that data shown you? Share some secrets with us. And I genuinely mean, tell us the interesting trends, the patterns, and the way that you see India use your game.
So what is keeping us awake in the night is probably the excitement that it has again brought. That when a company grows, right, when the scale grows and the number of people grows, processes and everything makes you slow, and you start to feel that startup frugality, right? I think this has brought us again. I mean, we have taken AI and probably from the leadership top down and the bottom up, where we have kept the whole, asked every team to be absolutely free, experimenting things out because this is growing so fast. I think we are releasing features at a much faster scale than we were doing 1 year behind. So this is actually the excitement is keeping us very, very awake.
And a very positive answer. Yeah.
And in terms of we have 5 principles. We call it do put, right? D is actually data informed. So the culture at our Dream Sports is that we have to be putting everything from the data perspective, right? And that is why if we say that it's data informed, because 90% data and 10% gut, right? It needs to be there. And probably software engineer 1 can challenge Harsh, our founder CEO, right, on data point, and probably he will be heard if he has good data points. So that's the culture that we have brought.
This is the AI first culture that we were talking about a little earlier. Yeah. Deepak, can I come to you and ask you a slightly different question? I want to understand, take us into, let's put away this discussion, and I want to understand from you, what are the parts of your own life that you have already given out to AI? And the reason I'm asking is because for anyone who is working with tech every single day, I just want to understand, how are you thinking about this? Because there's that constant good-bad discussion. How much of our own thinking are we lending out? What are the parts you've lent out already?
So my wife says that, she's become secondary. The ChatGPT has become the primary partner to me. So I start my day with chat. So, in fact, most parts of my life are known to ChatGPT or, I mean, whatever agent we use, I use ChatGPT more often. So whether it is, like for example, for the birthday of my daughter, we had tools creating the entire mock-ups in terms of how she can be in different avatars. So I think across every dimension of the personal life, AI has gone in too deep in terms of whether it's become a brainstorming partner, it become a assistant to build plans, it has become a idea factory to see how I can make up to my wife. So it's been a pervasive tool. I don't think. Yes, it sometimes makes you feel a little too dependent, but I think as you spend more and more time, you realize how it's kind of fast-tracking your thinking, your decision-making, and your ability to kind of look far in the future, which is very important today.
Okay, and I want to ask, let me just take this last question then to Robbie. It's beautiful because you've taken us into the personal with this answer, but Robbie, I just want to ask you, I think it's poetic to end with you and ask you almost just about the things. Let's stick with the positivity that you introduced earlier, Abhishek. I want to ask you, what are the things that you're really excited about? And I don't mean with Indus, and I don't mean with your company. I mean broadly when you look at the Indian gaming scene, you look at what AI has done to it. What makes you really, so what makes you want to grab your colleagues by the collars and be like, have you seen this?
So I think, when you think about gaming, not everybody identifies as a gamer. That medium of entertainment, maybe you didn't grow up with it. But what I kind of see AI do is to kind of make almost everybody a gamer. And gaming makes us the best version of who we are. So it's probably the best gift that we can actually get, but not just in the playing of games, but in the creation of games. So whether it's my son who's making games on Roblox, but now, so my kids have a studio of their own. It's called Pani Puri Studios because they feel like Pani Puri is the only Indian thing inside of it. And so I kind of see them making games, and I've seen them get really good at it once they've kind of mastered how to kind of use ChatGPT well. I kind of feel like, hey, and the joy of somebody creating something and others playing it is a gift that everybody has. I think if you use ChatGPT or any kind of AI to kind of do that, you put a smile on many people's faces.
Wow, and you really feel like ChatGPT is helping the creative process. That's the only positive way of sort of summarizing today.
Summarizing, yeah.
Pani Puri Studios will be staying with me. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us. Yes, please go ahead.
One last,
yeah.
If not Robinson, then Hussain would be.
Has to top Pani Puri Studios. So
Right.
by all means.
What I'm trying to ask you, the excitement with AI also, that we will have plethora of entrepreneurship in India and across the world. We'll see. The companies would be 1, 2, at max 5 people company, probably $1 billion revenue. That is not now a far-fetched dream. And you'll find that many people would be getting into entrepreneurship because, again, what I'm saying is that it will be super plus intelligence of work that humans would be doing in future. And that would open up many avenues.
But to your point, not future. It could be in the next 6 months, because remember what you said.
Future is again half
We're
of
getting
what
our
you're
timelines. Yeah, we need to cut our timelines. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us for this. Thank you so much.